Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being filmed on 2/15/2026. So, before I get into anything, I now open the circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one. When one is helped, all are helped. Let unity, genuine unity, lead the way, and it will make us all stronger. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones, to also let healing energies in. Let them love us and nourish us and bring us to our highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent or mischievous type ways to be swept away so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we do always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. Most of today will probably be not necessarily a Q&A as like a Q&A show. There is a topic to this, but this is one that was brought up over the past several days. And this you might have noticed on the Etsy store. And this is also months past as well, or a couple of years past. When actually, I'll just do this. When Elena Vessa had me put this picture up, this one here, for GIC, and also the Valkyrie one that's up there. At the end of the show, I'll see if I can move the camera and show you the one that's to my right here. But it is a protective sigil. Now, I'm going to break this part down for you. In both of these cultures, like you have the Valkyrie culture, of which you can see on GIC. Kara went into detail there, but she's going to speak a little bit on it here as well. That in that particular culture, the Valkyries tend to fight either scantily clad or topless, even though they are in a snow-like environment. And people think, oh, that's fantasy. That's like out of Red Sonja or something like that. That's not practical. There's an argument online that's been going on for decades now, but since I believe Frazetta actually drew some of the images, and the whole point is whether it can defend or whether it's just sexualizing and blah blah blah. That whole argument has been out there, still going on right now. In fact, online, if you look deep enough, you won't have to look hard. But the point is, they say that is a form of, oh God, what is the word they used? It's I mean, the Blanyalosians do it for transparency, but the Valkyrie do it as a form of like how the Scottish pick warriors did. They also called the naked men in Scottish lore as well. They did it as more of a shock and awe, but at the same time, there's a certain energy to this. Now, the bad guys also have done the same, like some of the vampiric women, they strip down so they can absorb energy. That's the sea siren type ones. So the bad side's abused it. Also, given the recent things with the Epstein files, the bad side abused the art form of this in a more sick, twisted, creepy thought sort of way. And that's what Epstein embodied. So there you have these two camps from both antiquity and now, seeing as Epstein was tapping into the same demigods that were active in antiquity. So yeah, I find it interesting how it's stretched across time, and both the abuses have gone, abuses and the good things have gone. That you had your Renaissance, that had the good things, and you had some of your abuses even further back. You have the cult of Cybele that actually, one can argue, started the whole trans movement as well. So where the men were made to feel guilty that they were men, even castrated themselves a whole bit, that was the cult of Cybele, ancient Greece. Though one could argue that's where that began, because it was still demigod manipulation as it is now, as well as multiversal blurring. And we don't need to go into that part. But the part that we are touching on today is, if anybody has seen the Etsy store, they have assumed that I know there's a couple of you, I can even feel it even sitting here right now as I'm tapping into that energy, that there's some of you confused as to why that's there. and even like the hot like Pele ones, like this, and you saw that as well. Well, here is the reasoning. This is what these people do and look like. This is how they are presenting themselves, and it is humanity that has the bias in this way. I mean, justifiably in some areas because of demigod cults and the Epstein thing, which was also a demigod cult, by the way. Uh, and any of these abuses that you see in Hollywood or any of these other areas, yes, it is understandable people would have these thoughts towards it, but these are polar opposites, even though they look similar. Just like I used to be a photographer that would photograph naked models. And the state I grew up in, Nebraska, frowned on this because they could not distinguish the difference between nudity and porn. They just couldn't do it, so they just blanket carpet bombed the entire thing. And they went, oh, this is all debaucherous. They went into more of the Christian viewpoint, good old Christian Nebraska. And if anybody that lives in the Bible Belt, Nebraska, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. They do that to the paranormal field too. Now, I will get right to it here. I know Kara the Valkyrie wanted to come in, more than likely Elena Vessa, or Vessa, one of the two or both, want to actually present the Lanielosian argument. What it was with the Lanielosian argument and also the Valkyrie argument. There are there are the similar things going on here. Where they're trying to make more contact with people via certain imagery, but then the bad side's coming through with all the other stuff, for one, and two, people are so used to this other camp, they can't see the good over here. And the reason, and I asked Elena Vesta, I said, why is Lanielos now choosing this point in history to make contact? Given the fact of what's going on, why not choose a more peaceful time frame to make contact? It is the simple fact is that it is the contrary or the polar opposite to what is going on, and their idea is that it is canceling out the other one. And also the thing with Pele, she's always looked that way. If you've ever seen her in clothes, that's for the benefit of people around. And if you've ever seen Lanielosians in clothes, it's for the same thing. Same thing with Valkyrie. It's usually to appease sensitivities. To that sort of thing. To them, it's another Tuesday afternoon. So, like with people that have been through the SSP, you start to mention certain things to some regular people, they're going to shut down, like the androids on Star Trek in the original series, the paradox bomb Kirk gives them. They're like, they start to shut down. So people have labeled those people NPCs because they can't handle something. They're a non-playable character. They can't handle like they just aren't seeing everything. And yes, it's because parts of them are drifting and ungrounded through the multiverse. We've been through that argument where they might have a more stable version here and another like drifty version here. We've said this before in the multiverse conversations, but with this is a cultural thing, and we have multiple cultures here. They're not used to dealing with a planet that or a realm that has a multitude of different cultures, even though there's a galaxy of them. There's always just been one planet, one people. And therefore, it is easier to create a contact with a singularity versus a multiplicity. So also some of these cultures, like Lanielosian, they both do singular relationships, and also polyamorous. Here, you see certain versions of that here, but the Orions bastardized it. The Orions took it and ran with it, and they turned it into more of a cultish thing, like with the worship of a demigod, like what I said with the Epstein thing. But even with nudist colonies, you see certain really harsh rules that are attached, almost like it's a certain religious cults in place. And also the same thing with Mormon with the multiple wives. That we found out was stemmed from another alien culture called Carven. That is the one where Moroni and Joseph Smith's guide Moroni came from. So you see the influences of these alien cultures, but you see the Orion bastardization of it. You also have when they introduced celibacy, for instance, that was to separate someone from themselves, saying, I hear in the New Age community all the time, oh, I didn't do this, I suppressed this, and I'm adding more light, I separated this from me, the darkness from me. It's like, no, you didn't separate darkness from me, you divided light from light. Sorry, it's supposed to be there. You're not supposed to repress the sex drive unless there's something really wrong with it. So there's nothing wrong with it in a regular, balanced way. So you need to understand again the differences: discernment, 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 the age of discernment of which we're in, and also one of these things is not like the other. And like the old Sesame Street song, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not quite the same. So they just look similar. Even certain species look similar. So discernment, discernment, discernment. And this is also why they are throwing this in now at this most tumultuous age. Now, with all of this stuff going on, because they want you to discern one thing from another thing, even if they seem similar or the same. And also on top of that, of course, you're going to see boobies because both men and women created some of this iconography in both all their cultures that are out there and human. And also, a lot of people bitch about Voyager 7 of Nine's cat suit, saying, "Oh, it's sexist and everything." Did you know it was a woman that came up with the design? So, people bitch about that a lot online. It is a lot. It's everywhere. But just know some of these designs women came up with. Yes, men roll with it, and they will probably always roll with it. But that's just because they're men. But at the same time, it doesn't mean they've automatically become sexist and abusive.
But women can be just the same.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
the fact that a woman designed it, a woman can know how to be, take sexuality to a way that she wants it to be, which may not be benevolent.
Well,
So,
sometimes it's benevolent, but sometimes it isn't.
well,
It's just, again,
that's my point.
it's two things that look alike.
Discern, but just because it was a woman, to me, that's like, well, what is that?
But also, given the fact on the flip side of the spectrum, it's Hollywood or Hollywood. So you have to discern where does the evil live and where does the good live. And it could be something that looks exactly the same, and it is not going to be bad in one area, and it will be in another.
I am glad to hear that they are willing to appease sensitivities, because that's the key here. That's one of the keys here. If you're going to come into an era that there is such sensitivity ballot, and rightfully so, that you need to be able to appease that sensitivity. It's no different than asking Puma or Seymour to wear their robes. They have to be culturally sensitive to go into the Galactic Federation.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has to understand that it's not just you have to completely agree with me, it's my way or the highway, but there has to be, especially in an emerging pre-galactic society, the sensitivities to the post-traumatic stress of traumas and different things that are going on. And the female body, a lot of abuse, a lot of problems have happened. And so it will take time to turn that boat around. So I am glad to hear, again, the appeasement of the overt nakedness and to understand, if you're going to come into this realm and not just talk to us, but to talk to others, that you do have to be sensitive of that, because you do. And everywhere, including the Galactic Federation, has requirements for sensitivity all around, which they all make them then dress in a certain way.
But then it becomes too overt, like on our planet too.
I'm saying at this moment in time, as you're easing your way into turning the boat on something that was seen as bad, something that was seen as, asking for abuse, something that was seen as, something to abuse, you're putting it right in my face kind of thing. and all of the acts that have been done and the degradation of humanity by not allowing them to have clothes. That was done in humanity.
Yes.
Slaves
See, I
are
said-
not allowed to have clothes. So there is so much historical in the genetics now issues for humanity to overcome, that you do have to have that cultural sensitivity, and they have to discern when it is okay for them to show up in the visage that they normally hold or when it is not. So I have high expectation for their discernment process of when it would be appropriate and really when it would not. And we're not just talking sensitivity of women. We're talking the sensitivity of men, because men here on earth right now are built, they are automatic going to a sexual nature. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's genetic, it's built in. But as we know, then the desire to hook up with, be it etherically or whatever. And as we know, trying to do that with something that's vibrating a little bit higher and trying to have these relationships causes damage to the relationships of the current present moment, because you cannot meet that high of a higher vibration.
Unintentional on their part, by the way.
Well, they have the knowledge to know.
The knowledge, but still.
Well, doesn't matter. So it's expected of us, it's expected of them. And so all of these things need to be considered. But are there races and that choose for whatever reason to be in a visage that doesn't need clothing, be it they already have some sort of protection or their world never makes them cold, or their genetics never makes them cold, or never makes them, too hot, or whatever it is, then fine. It's fine to introduce those cultures and say that it's fine to say if Pele, who channeled herself, if I was in a visage of a woman, this is probably representative of one I would take. Nothing wrong with that, So again, all of these things are fine, but sensitivity to the culture and where they are, and then hopefully the slow changing. Not that humanity's going to change. I doubt it. I think a great bell curve of humanity will like clothes, will like fashion, will like these kinds of things. I think that pretty much, but there may be those that choose to adopt more of a way of another race down the road, and that should be fine too. Right now, we're just heavily in the area of weeding out abuse, neglect, and trauma. And so there has to be an appeasement to the cultural sensitivity. So I'm glad to hear that they are doing that.
That and introducing their way, they feel is the contrary or the polar opposite.
No, I mean, that's fine, but it is just an introduction. It does not mean that humanity is ready to accept this on a dime. And again, the cultural sensitivity that I would hope that the communication and the information and the relayance of ideas is more important than if they stand firm in being nude at the moment or not. So, again, that is up to their discernment of, what battle is the most important. And I think right now the battle that is the most important is just trying to relay the information of different cultures that exist, what they are, and if a different culture chooses to want to help humanity, what would be the best way to do it, and for them to consider that it may not be without clothes. So that's just something everybody on all sides has to think about.
That, and also if you want a good cultural reference for some of the sensitivities here. Sometimes in Christian, where they're more conservative, but at the same time, there's the Arabic time of Ramadan. They normally don't have meat or booze, but people forget the other angle where they've introduced Sharia law into some of their cultures, and they'll say, "Oh, well, we can't have women wearing bikinis or doing things like this on this holiday." It's like, that's nice. You're in the United States. I'm sorry. You have to be not too sensitive to our culture, just like we have to be not too sensitive to yours.
And that's the growth. That's the growth
Yeah.
here, because again, again, Sharia law, I believe, is based on the fact that men can't control themselves.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that, and also
Men
they
can't-
cover the women up so
woman
they
to
can't
protect
control
the
them.
woman so that no other man can see, because apparently men can't control themselves.
Yeah.
And they just, I guess they just kind of accept that. That is why I believe, my understanding is why they're saying it's done. It's done as a protection way.
Then it became oppression after a while.
And
Yeah.
so, again, all of these cultural sensitivities, and people's personal growth and society's personal growth. And again, when we're talking about dealing with another race, each other's race's sensitivity to the ones that they are dealing with, which again, humanity is being expected not to be subservient to another one's race and their thoughts and their ideology, but to be respectful and to expect respect back.
Mhm. Yes, all right. Yeah, so this presents all arguments in this, all sides of this. Excuse me, I gotta move that out of the way. I didn't know that that was on the screen there. But yeah, this is an argument that's popped up recently, as even with clients. Some people thought that because I posted those things, like, why is this appearing here? There was, even in the spiritual community, there was like a weird shock there as well, when in fact these are some of the very people that are communicating with some of these very beings. They're in a misnomer that these are spiritual spirit guides and all this other stuff. But this is ET. This is dimensional. And 9/10 the guides you're dealing with are of a dimensional and or of an ET nature. And also their spirit world, which is the other third. So you have all these components in play. But this is what surprised me about people, and even in the disclosure community, where they're like, why does he have this here? Because these are, if you look at some of the history and some of the channeling and some of the works even from Derenberger's time frame in the 60s, you're going to see this stuff. He brought this through and was considered crazy. So because people were not ready for that. You're still running into this because there's been prolonged traumas, like as we were saying. So sometimes there has to be a culture clash in order to cause an evolution to take place. And which is just fine, but we have culture clashes of our own down here, from different races down here, like what I said before. So at the end, I'll arc the camera over there. I can't leave it on too long because I don't want it to trip the YouTube censors. And YouTube, please, in the future, know the differences that we're talking about right here in this show, and don't let your AI flag things. Let a human look at this, please. If you don't mind. Just saying that you cannot acquiesce complete control just because you want to do your thing in a different area. Just food for thought. Now, Kara, I believe you wanted to present this argument today, and I'm thinking Elaine and Vesta do as well, since they're of the two cultures that do these things.
It's
Well-
weird. I don't even like the word argument. What is there to argue about? This is your culture. So you
Or
can
present
your
present the
culture.
argument, not fighting, and fighting by presenting their other end of the spectrum. But people say, presenting their argument like they're in court.
Yeah, but
And
we're not in court, so
so
just have a conversation.
just like we said, the word canon was associated with religion, but we associate with the disclosure committee. You see the difference there. So, all right, Kara, true benevolent Kara. If people again have seen GIC, you know who I'm speaking about, and they're the ones that based Supergirl off of, and all of those type of things. So, which batch wants to go first? The Valkyrie or the Vanya Losian? Valkyrie. Okay. All right. And just know that this flag over here repelled uh, Loki when he tried some things recently. So I won't go completely into that. I just noticed a very distinct difference. So, uh, Karen, ooh, you're in a hurry. Sorry for the abruptness, but we tend to come in like a Arctic wind. Where I am from, as depicted in the picture over there, we patrol the in-between spaces of dimensions, like what was said on the other show. We tend to find those that have time slipped into those corridors. He compares it to an apartment building that has the utility areas in the back, where the maintenance people go in and out. The MDTF does the same for the timeline. But what I will go into is certain cultural differences he noticed our outfits and what male would not. Sometimes we have the tops on, and sometimes we do not. In times of diplomacy, yes, but also in times of regular meetings, yes, but in times of battle, no. It's because, like in your Pict culture, they picked up a fragment of our ways, even though they were quite barbaric. They picked up a fragment of our ways, going into battle naked. This actually is more of a benefit than people think that it is. For one, it's a shock and awe value against your enemy because, again, they might be of a more sensitive culture, and or they might have something indoctrinated or ingrained in their genetics that, or what you say, a virus in the DNA that they might pause temporarily, especially if it's a lot of male soldiers. So this was actually a tactic in that area. It was a cultural thing that made the enemy pause. But at the same time, as the myths depict us, even though there's quite other big differences that the Orions put in the angelic vestiges and things in iconography and everything, that's all Orion there. And the soul trap nonsense of Valhalla. Hence, Valhalla soul trap no more, as printed on the flag. Now, with this particular subject, the reasoning why I went to the artist that did that picture is so that the cultural differences were shown. And also, the reason for the topless one is granted that's our preferred state of being, but also on top of the fact that it was supposed to be a protective visage. He even noticed with his Star Wars coins that he noticed a strange protective visage from something that was fun and playful from someone else who created them. But he noticed on the back there was the heart sigil, which again was the ancient Valentine's Day stuff. But at the same time, the X-wing on the back was basically a tulpa from humanity saying "protector." So he noticed that that worked, or the Grigorish energy, a protective one, worked. With this is slightly different. Well, it's not different as far as he notices the same repelling technique mixed with the GIC logo, but at the same time, the uh, the reasoning for that is because that's how we went into battle, and it was the shock and awe to any entities that would go near it. In your Arab culture, when they cover up women, they can't even look at visages and statues of it, or they either have to commit suicide or they have to abstain and go through days and days of prayer. And if you were to put this one up in that culture, they would constantly have to do this. This is why they tell people on Ramadan and all that to cover up. Because again, they feel they can't control themselves in that particular way. Therefore, it goes against Muhammad. You see that whole thing, but which in fact was not true, by the way. Just saying. Uh, but some of them were elements of Cassiopeia, and they were a lot more loose with the rules, except for their Darshanian, which were more conqueror, but we're not going to go into that. But with this, then this denotes protective sigil, you see, or protective, battle stance. When someone sees an image of a Valkyrie like that, they tend to walk the other way. So, or tend to run the other way. Hence was the idea of the exercise. With Lanyalosians, they have it as more of a transparency type of thing in their culture. It is also like, say, if it's hot out or something like that, or if it's humid out. That is their culture. There's also some of your own cultures, like some of your South American and Aboriginal and jungle cultures, or tribal types that do this because of weather conditions. But they introduced your whole idea of the swimsuits kind of getting smaller, kind of thing. It was more of a weaning effect. But also on the flip side of it, the more controlling aspects of your society also adapted it to marginalize, just like your Ferengi having naked women in their culture kind of thing in Star Trek, where it was more of a marginalizing and sexualizing thing. But the original idea was to slowly wean over a period of time. And the enemy caught wind of this too and started to infect it. So you're getting the yin and yang. So the Lanulosians were the ones that introduced this back from the 60s on, when there was an initial contact. So they can go more into this if they wish, but that is how that took place. I'm actually going to go into questions.
So I think I find it interesting. So we obviously it's how you go into battle. It's what you're looking like, the Shakana. I think you explained that beautifully. Thus, capturing an image like that with what is saying is more representative of what it truly is, the true vibration of what you are. And my question then is, how does that translate in general, if you can explain it for everyone, how does that then translate that frequency here to help human beings?
Yes, translating that, think of what's the term, jump scare? That you guys have around Halloween, or to somebody that just likes to go boo, out from a corner like you guys do to each other periodically. He does to his mother, Laverne does to him and such. But we find that funny. So he's even remembering an American Dad episode where they were jumping out at each other and looking around the corner to see if they were jumping out and they got spooked. That kind of thing. That psychological thing is what I'm talking about, where Stan would come home and look around like that. That got an enemy to go like that. They know if our tops come off, we mean business. So with that, it's more of a power thing. Some people would think it's like sacred feminine or something like that. One could argue that point, but it's not really, that's not an existing medium, or sacred feminine, sacred masculine. That's more of a new age premise. But what I'm saying is it's more of yeah, you could say feminine power and goddess and whatever you want to add to it, but it's more of it is a power move, like a dominance move in that way. So the power behind that, mixed with your sigil, coupling that, and also the thing for the coins that we have harped at him about for a month, is the same thing, a pocket version of that. One could argue different religions around the planet have done this for centuries, and you would be right. The Orions did it so that people would travel around with them in their pocket, that anchor. The bad guys do it, we've done it, Odin's done it, we've all done it, making these anchors, and in places that you wouldn't guess they would be. Your videos even have them in it. This is why Hajimal was adamant that his name had to be corrected on the GIC Tartaria video because of that fact, because it's a powerful seal. My name, Kara, the Valkyrie up there, powerful seal. So even with the newer one with your Supergirl Kara Sor-El, that is also, they've intermixed it with the Elohim, which is the L in your Superman, like with Krypton. That's supposed to be like a Asgard or Nibiru-ish type of vibe there. But at any rate, the vibe that you bring across would, if an entity came bursting through, would see that and back up and know that we have an energy seal present. And this is where some of your not only superhero visages come from, with the look, with the seal on the chest, like Superman, but Supergirl. But this is where some of your religious medals and iconography came from, with like the bleeding heart and all that other stuff. Even though there's more to that history that is more satanic, as you guys have discovered, that doesn't necessarily have to be said here. Even though that is the other contrary of the like Lupercalia would be your Valentine's Day. where it was the worship of Baal, no, that the typical heart symbol, all of those things. This is why he's seeing. That's why those coins of the X-wing covered up that heart. Therefore, turn it into another bind rune or bind sigil. These bind sigils are incredibly powerful for whatever you couple them to. And that can be either permanent or temporary, whether you assemble, how you assemble or disassemble said objects later on, or as they're being created. As when the coins came into existence, he felt that burst of energy come through into this realm. Very potent, very powerful, and I highly recommend this for future not only just protective pieces, but just in general. Because people can carry them around unwittingly or unknowingly that they are carrying around a spell. And I can mention this here because it doesn't really matter a whole lot saying this. But in short, bullet point. That visage, then jump scares with that particular high frequency, that poof, like a flashbang to anything that was of a lower vibration, but what you call lower vibration or slower moving. But that can also make people that are within the what's the term? Restrictive belief systems or within the traumas also react in a similar fashion. And you would say they are then put off by it. And so that's what tends to happen. Unfortunately, there's a bit of what your military would call collateral damage in that area. It's not a smart bomb, except that it will take care of evil.
Well, thanks. So, just the obvious question that people will want to know, how do you protect your skin then from getting hurt with no armor or things on?
The Lonulosians have something similar in the winter if they want to walk around that way. It's more of the armor that you're seeing also has a shield that protects from the cold. It also, both Asgardians and Valkyrie have an extreme protection from the cold. They don't feel it as much as a human would. They grew up around things of this nature. So, and even in the dimensional spaces, it's cold because the sun doesn't always get in there, in those in-between spaces. Kind of like your void dimension was in Marvel, but it's not depicting the actual void, but you know what I'm saying. Elements of the branches and the trees, or the in-between the branches of the trees of the Yggdrasil tree, is what I'm talking about, where sometimes there's no light from stars or anything in there. But it is not cold to us. One would argue, based on like that picture, that our boobies would cut glass in that particular scenario. But that's not. I know we'd like the running joke, but at the same time, no. Also, Vessa, I believe, mentioned on a previous recording that they could ice skate that way or ski that way if they had like that shimmering, like it's still essentially an outfit that's the nanofiber, just transparent. So if they're wanting to be more provocative, I suppose that way, and kind of a shock and awe to that would be a shock and awe to anybody skiing, because for one, they'd be freezing. Seeing this, and two, that again, shock and awe like us. It's not just transparency. Sometimes Lonulosians, especially if humans are among them, will go, let's try this. So yeah, that's where we're at with that.
Okay, and then the next obvious question has to do with, of course, Odin and the 9 realms and your relationship, because it doesn't sound like you are actively having a relationship, that you're often doing something else.
Yeah, we are our own entity. Yeah, at one point, I know the myths say that he's our boss. This is not true. We are our own entity. He does come to us for help sometimes, but there was a time where he felt he was our Lord. I shouldn't say our Lord, that would be his bastard son, that was the Lord High Commander, but he felt like he could order us around. Oh, you're the protectors of the realm, do as I say. No. We appropriated our job from Asgard to come and patrol the galactic and dimensional cops, like your MDTF or multidimensional task forces for the multiverse, and then the Void basically saying, okay, you can represent our interests here. If it behooves us, we represent something Odin wants done, like putting some of the coin sigils and stuff around. We understand the logic there, but would we just blindly go, thy will be done. Absolutely not. It's more of a mutual beneficial partnership. And are there men that help us out from time to time? Yeah, just like with the MDTF, they're like the Valkyries of the multiverse. But it isn't that common. It's like seeing a male cheerleader. It's kind of weird. Are kind of out of place. And it's like, no, it would look kind of strange. But there are Asgardian warriors that help us out from time to time, like how the Vikings would be like caravan guards, things of that nature. And there are other groups that do help us from time to time. And some of them are just as shocked as what humans would be. The Mozen see this, and even some of their female soldiers can be quite disgusted. Which because let's just say the male Mozen aren't complaining too much. The female ones, unless they're homosexual, are going to, if they're straight, they're going to be slightly disgusted, actually. So Mozen and humans are not that far off in some of their wants and desires and needs. You're extremely related to one another, and you are on very similar frequency wavelengths. So they are some of the ones that you see here, because you are so similar to one another. Lonulosians are the same way, relation wise. But as far as mentality similarities, it would be the Mozen.
Okay. And then the next obvious question is, well, then how do you bring forth the next generation of your race?
This is even though we do have men around. This isn't like we're suddenly like birthing persons. Let's just say that's not how this works. It's not like we lay an egg or anything like that. It's the same as everybody else. It just we're an organization, not necessarily just a culture. You see. It's more of an organizational norm, just like the Mozen, or the ones you call the Mozen. It's a different name. They want me to keep emphasizing this. They're an organization, but it's woven and become its own culture. Just like you have Father Mort's witchery or exorcist, Pope's exorcist type of group. It became more of a culture within that religion. It became more of an organization, but it's a culture organization. If it's a merging of the two ideals, so you can say we're an organization, but we're also a culture as well. So others can join it.
But your culture has families, men, things like that. I
Yes,
just want to be
that would be more as
straightforward.
that's more Asgardian. See, so it's just that we're not beholden to Odin as a ruler.
Right. And so just out of curiosity to tie this in a bow, the males that are part of your culture, what are they into a variety of things, or do they have a particular mindset of what they tend to do?
They are all these groups are similar to one another. It's just that the vibration is slightly different. It's more Odin's level vibration. And they sometimes will be the warriors. Sometimes they'll be the warriors on that end. And then the two sides, of course, meet. But sometimes if they're regular people, you're just not seeing some of the regular folk. The regular folk is how you see in your Marvel cinematic universe, where they're just regular people living in a village. So you would find similarities there. The warriors for Odin and the warriors for Valkyrie tend to be the extreme of the extreme in the warrior variety. Like you have your special forces.
Right.
Are all of you special forces or Spartan types? Like the Spartans were all warriors? No, you're not all warriors. Like they raised their culture to be all warriors. Unfortunately, they had selective eugenics, and that was more Enlil's design. As cool as the Spartans may seem, and his Asgardian type design, he kind of tailor-made them through his son Hercules to be more of a standing army or hedge betting. That's more in his creepy realm. But in that respect, Loki tended to have no respect for his grandfather's creations or culture. So the Spartans, though they did help out, they did a lot of good. They were woven by Enlil to tend to be his standing army, and it was Hercules that helped do that. Unfortunately, his father's bidding. Not to dump on him too much. He's actually been a great help. but also he can be a bit of a pompous asshole too.
Right.
Like you saw him in Thor: Love and Thunder, he's very much like that mentality, like in the comics. Just saying, the energy brought that through. They have us there too, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, because you're not subservient to, Odin. That's a misnomer, which actually answers another question that I had roaming around in my head because I didn't understand, and I brought this up to Odin before. We're the women, basically. You would think that in a culture as advanced, where are the women coming forth to help and to talk to humanity? But so I didn't understand why you were. Well, it's because you're not the same culture. You're just
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
So it's they do things however.
similar but not the same. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but again, I still say that. Where are they? But then you've made it perfectly clear that you're not at all, which is why you have no problems coming forward and having these conversations. So, and I think you've cleared up a lot of things as far as the mythology that's out there versus really who you guys are as a race. So this kind of is my last question, gives you the opportunity, as far as obviously you're here, obviously you're talking to us, obviously you mean to, not just to forge a relationship between the two, but most people at the level that you're at are trying to also add contribution to the energetics to help humanity expand. It seems to be a part of it. So can you kind of just give a leaving, what are your goals? And again, I have to say it's more than just the human visage being acceptable, seeing it. What are your goals your contributions and goals that you guys are working with humanity on?
The goals would be to, let's just say, clean house, just like what you see on the outside with Epstein being flogged, things of this nature. Getting rid of the corrupted areas where light needs to shine on them, and getting rid of these influences and cords and entanglements of these rival demigods like Moloch and Baal, which is Enlil. He can change his name all he wants to. A creep is still a creep is still a creep. And creepy, it seems to be his vibe. No matter what form he takes, whether it's Loki or any of the others, he's not very low key when he has his way with humanity. But the point is, what does your law enforcement do? They tend to, or in their original, to protect and to serve. Now, I'm not saying that we are at the beck and call of everybody. The Mozen are not either, even though that some of their sects have proclaimed they are the protectors. And yes, they are. They're like your cops, firemen, and some EMT. Well, that's more Volodian, and the like. Yes, they have proclaimed this, but you must understand something, and people must understand something. It is not as simple, and the Volodians are wanting this put out as well. It is not as simple as defying signatures on a script or paper. It is not as simple as breaking the rules. Isaac accomplished this, yes, but look what happened to himself. Isaac, yes, we venerate him for what he has done. He has helped out immensely. But do we wish to suffer his fate when there are dozens, if not hundreds, of demigods in play on Midgard, where they have dug their trench deep into the earth? No. Yes, we would love to see nothing more than to see that board cleared and everything be peaceful. But if, say, a group like the Volodians would bust through and try to land their vessels, yes, would they accomplish the impossible or seemingly impossible? Yes. Would there be major retaliation for such a bold move? Yes. There's aspects to culture out there that you have been grossly and completely made unaware of. And this is by design. So that if you knew about certain things, you are picking up on it even now. And even Bjorn and Susan were picking up on these things last night, and he was as well. There's just a gross amount of information that you don't know. Well, that's like that with all things. But with this specifically, and I will say this, there are certain things that are going on that you have no knowledge of, and it has been kept that way. You are here for your lane and reason. If we told you certain things, we would be defaming and demoralizing and careening like a drunk driver, as he would say, into your lane. There has to be a certain level of compartmentalization. There must. This was decided upon by the oversouls. This was decided upon by the different races that deal with Earth.
So I hate to interrupt, but I joke now because I say, I've been talking to myself, where we get a lot of information by talking to ourselves. Obviously, you're at a place where in your vibratory, you have more ability to be a bigger part of your oversoul than me, lowly little avatar, let's just say. You agree with that statement, being at the frequency you're in. It's not I'm not.
You call this the cheese, what's going on, but
Right.
there's more to it than what you're saying.
I don't demean myself saying that I don't have as much information as you, because I understand you've got to grow in frequency to be able to gain more of that frequency of yourself.
Absolutely.
So it's not demeaning, I'm joking, but I am making clear, we're not in the same spot. We're
So-
not in the same spot.
Oh,
But what I wanna say is, little old me, talking to myself, right, reaching up for more information. The one thing that comes back to me on just a simple logic level, and so maybe you can comment on this, if I put it this way, is that I agree with the signatories, contracts,
Yes.
agreements.
and some of those are quite unfair, and yes, those are being dealt with. The very unfair ones, you bet, are being dealt with.
Right, but do you agree, were we misspeaking when we said that in the end, the goal was to bring humanity to this pre-galactic, ready to meet everybody out there state? I think everyone agrees to that. So
Yes.
logically, what I can say that I think would be, you have to understand the betterment of humanity and regular humans wouldn't understand, is all of these grips of these demigods who don't want it to happen have to be dealt with.
You bet. Think about it this way, like on your Earth, people want your what you call Star Trek world. How did this occur within your lore?
Mhm.
It took a long time.
It took time, it took wars, it took realization,
Yes.
it took all kinds of things.
Like from your World War III to your eugenics war, I'm not saying that will happen in reality.
No.
Some of that was propaganda, but I'm just saying certain things they presented there were true, like meaning humanity had to come to realize that they didn't want that anymore. That takes time. Yes, we could open this up to today. What would happen as a result? Not only would there be frequency shocks as well, that your genome would either worship us or fear us. Your Anunnaki and all them put that in play. Some of them, the Dark Orions, and I will say, and Enki equally did certain things. Even Odin in his dark times did things. And these things must be undone. But to shock and awe in that area, not the way.
No, not at all. And like I said, like I was just saying, I think that again, it is not humanity's job, even in these contractual agreements, to deal with things that are of the higher vibrational status that must be dealt with. Some humans are the slaves and the flunkies for some of these demigods, and humanity
Flunkies
has
is a
to
good word, yes.
humanity has to deal and understand that there are flunkies here that are not necessarily for our highest good that have to be dealt with.
Your Epstein was one of these flunkies.
Correct, absolutely.
No.
So this is where we are, and again, as you're saying, staying in your own lane. I always say, do you believe it or not? if you can believe that we are on the path by agreement that we are going to move in this direction, then all of the aspects required to move in the direction have to be dealt with.
Mhm.
And in fact, it's an interesting thing because in general, within these next, let's say, 25 years or so, a lot of things have to be dealt with, even from the perspective of things we don't understand. There is a lot of changeover that has to occur and is
Yes.
expected to occur.
Mhm.
So you guys are busy, very busy. I can't imagine you're not, because of the areas. The question is, do we acknowledge that all of these changes need to occur? And do we acknowledge that people have to do it in the proper lane that they're in
Mhm.
and not, cross lanes? And I think that's part of the conversation as well. I do feel that the contribution that, Chris and I try to bring to the table is the understanding of a lot of the picture so that people understand what they need to focus on and or what they don't need to focus on. Stay in your lane as far as energies to transmute within the energy frequency lanes that you're in. And so that's been kind of my perspective. And we either believe it or we don't. But that's, I think, where we're at. Do you believe it or you don't? And if you believe it, you need to spend your energies in the right way, in the right place, moving along in the lane that you're in. And have the expectation, because I do have high expectations, and I bitch a lot, not on camera, but I bitch a lot outside of camera, making sure that we're all in agreement of what, of our lanes that we're in and what we're doing, right?
To say something that's slightly, to point out the unrealism, let's just say, of certain statements you just made, men and women will never be on the same page in certain areas. That's just because both the genetics and the energies, but they can come together
Exactly.
on certain ideas as well. There will always be differences. Those will never disappear. There's never going to be that unity fusion in that area. That would be creepy and weird and non-binary, and no, that's more Enlil's territory or Baal's territory. No, or Baphomet if you wish, but that's still him. Him, her, whatever the hell that is at the moment. Wicked Witch of the West, as his brother likes to.
But the unity can occur.
But the unity can occur, just like certain cultures will never completely 100% agree. There's not going to be this mass awakening. No, 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 no. No. They're basically agree to disagree on some things, but allow each side to do what they need to do so long as they're not harming each other or people within their own cultures, or as long as evil is not brewing or not being given a home, or that there aren't flunkies worshiping said demigods. So there are good ones out there that are helping as well, but the word worship needs to be abolished. They're more like helping out. Now, has this happened for centuries where they need people on Midgard to enact their will? Yes. Odin is doing this even as we speak now, putting his foot in the door in places that were lost to him centuries ago. We cannot blame him or fault him for this. We are doing the same. However, there are times where he gets ahead of himself, and we have to remind him there are others here now. Within the 9 realms he created, he brought in a bit of inclusivity. But within that, all the cultures stick to their tighter circle, deeper roots at times. He has to be reminded of that, even though he coined the phrase tighter circle, deeper root. He has to be reminded of this periodically, even if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how he gets along with you. He might get temporarily irked, but it's like what was said in your movie Legion, where Archangel Gabriel said to basically said, or Michael said to Gabriel, "I gave God what he wanted, not what he, or God gave God what he needed, not what he wanted." This applies. Even though that's not, Odin is not his bastard son, you get the analogy. You have to give him what he needs, not necessarily always what he wants. And then that's a mutually beneficial partnership.
Mhm.
But as was said in other conversations, some of these beings are so old, ourselves included, sometimes there's perspective lost as to a shorter lifespan on Midgard, even though that was from tampering. And humans are supposed to live in excess of 500 years or more, or 600, like Lanyalosians do at times. They go from 175 to 600, sometimes 800. Because that's the tall white DNA. It tends to be forgotten from time to time, from not only Earther humans, from galactics, but from demigods as well. And those that they forget their advanced age tends to make them forget certain grounded perspectives. The Velodians are even included in this. They're used to dealing with people on a regular basis, coming and going, sometimes hearing bitches and grievances from Earther humans. They're going, oh, wait a minute. That's why. Then they have to go, this is why this is happening. This is why when Shingo was talking through him one time, when you talked to him about, when you were talking to him about something, he had to think about it for a moment. Some certain things, there has been too long of a separation between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. We aim to change this, but it takes time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
An old colony lost to everybody out there. You'll find a lot of friends and neighbors out there, but you will also find a lot of people you wouldn't necessarily invite over for dinner either.
That's right. It's all there. So, okay, thank you. I don't know if there's any last words or you just want to turn it over?
I will turn this over to whom wishes to speak in the Lanyalosian camp. Vessa, of course, you are the loudest of that couple. No offense, Elena, but you two tend to switch the Valkyrie-esque light on and off for each other. Okay. But the MDTF sometimes are not all warriors either.
Stay in your lane.
Yes. Like they said, they're lovers, not fighters. So that's which I can agree with that too. Though that energy can move mountains. So I will quit ousting them and hand it over. So I thank you. Speeches are not my thing usually, so that's somebody else. That's an orator within the Galactic Federation, Galactic Council that likes to. A few of them like to hear themselves talk. So yeah. Yes, even though she addressed a lot of the Lanyalosian cultural differences, I will say, when it comes to the naked thing, and Elena's brought this up too. Some humans would compare it to both a mix between Betazoid and Risa, in Star Trek, where you have the pleasure planet thing and you have the telepathic Betazoid thing and peaceful. I suppose that there's a certain representations, and would certain humans see it as such? Yeah, they would. Especially human men coming here would, and you can't exactly fault them or blame them with that. And we don't exactly get offended by that at all because it's expected. Because humans have moved there quite a lot in the past. Even though our provincial government sometimes frowns upon people from Midgard integrating here, sometimes they're not opposed to it. But there has to be a reason, and there has to be somebody willing to integrate into our workforce. Very much like your DNOC timeline, where people worked for a couple of years and earned their stripes, basically, or worked hard for a minute. And for us, it's between 2 and 4 years of work. Then you can do whatever you want. But then if you want extras, you have to work for it, but your basic needs are met. This is where he's picking this up from. For that, it should be on Earth. And yes, it should be. But at the moment, you have a different system in place. Even though it be oppressive, that's what you're dealt with. If you want it changed, change it. I know this seems rude, but if your people want some of these things out in the open and changed, you must get the balls to do so and the spine to do so. This is how things get changed. It's your will and energy, or as they like to say with the jump scare thing with their picture, but it's more the same effect, like you're bursting something new onto the scene. Oh, and it doesn't mean like how your left is doing things or how your right is doing things, because that's more of the war divide. But the cultural thing is the reason we brought this through at the time that we did. And you even argued the point at a time that the trans movement's at its height and everything. It is because it is the contrary. It is showing that manipulation versus transparency, raw sexuality versus that of manipulated creepiness. I know people are going to be offended by what we have said. And this is not something that we can help nor that we wish to. But these are the origins of these things. So these are not meant to offend, but at the same time, we also must be ourselves too. Now, if we came to Earth, if we came to Earth or Midgard as we were, not only would people be staring, but your law enforcement would be involved. But there are also other areas where this is permissible, as you've said, from nudist colonies to nude beaches and topless beaches and the whole thing. It's been set aside almost like a reservation. That is some of our influence and some of the Carven people's influence. They have polyamorous relationships in some instances, so do we. It's like your culture, where you have a mix between things. It's not everybody is one way here. That's incorrect. And not all people have embraced the nudity thing either. The ones that have settled here, that were originally that descent lineage, yes. But you have a few humans that have come in here, and then once they've gotten into the vibration more, they've embraced it because it's showing that there's no creepiness there. We have good and bad, of course. Just like in all the different frequencies and all the different timelines, there's still a mixture of good and bad in there. And that's how it always be. Sometimes some are easier, sometimes some are tougher. As he saw from somebody else's post not too long ago saying the same thing. But the point is, the energy that we also give off sometimes is very fairy-like. And when fairies tend to bear all, they tend to, especially with human straight men, it tends to affect. Just like in your Star Trek with the Deltan race, where Kirk had to say to her, the bald lady had to say, Iran Andra or some, what her name was, had to say was her celibacy restrictions in place because of the fact that certain races just give that off more, and that's why your Decker character fell in love with her to begin with. That's what happens. But at the same time, we embrace this as well because we embrace relationships with people. We have human in us as well, so we're a mix. So we're right in the trenches with you, so to speak. So with that said, humanity is only 1 or 2 stages away from really embracing some of these differences. It is your forced inclusivity branches of your GF that are trying to DEIize it a little bit. And that's a radical sect. The totality of the Galactic Federation is not like that. There are radical sects and radical testers out there. Now, did Indrid Cold and the rest of them want, and Valiant Thor and them, the original, wanted to introduce certain aspects over a period of time to try to flip the negative polarity that the Orions imposed on things like nudity and things like that? Absolutely, because it's an everyday thing to some of the people out here, and also in the dimensions as well. But it's humans that got restricted and polarized in that area. So I can go into questions too.
So I think the one thing for healing, obviously for humanity, to be able, again, to move to an area where this is not so traumatic to them, let's just say, as a general statement. I know it's not traumatic at all, but I'm talking the bell curve and where a lot of people are, it is. I'm not talking on either side of it. So, but I think that, it is something that it does take time. And again, obviously you guys are sensitive to it. The one area that
The bikini thing was true. We did introduce the slow drip of it disappearing. That's why you're seeing that. But the sexist arm got control of parts of it too.
Right. So I think why this is a relevant, conversation also for us, which we haven't spoken about yet, but I'll bring it up right now, is that the one thing that Chris and I really want is for people that are channeling and people that are reaching out and talking to beings, that the beings that they're talking to truly represent themselves for who they are.
Yes.
And that has not been happening. Now, I get it. I get the fact that, again, for rough, issues, a person being where they're at, what they feel is right or wrong, that, you yourself, you would potentially come to them in a visage that they could understand, even if it looked a little bit more angelic, because that's what their belief system is. But one of the areas...
Melodians do that a lot, yes.
Yeah, so, but one of the areas that we hope that there is growth in as well is in the area that channelers open themselves up to growth, to be able to see beings, and the beings are able to present themselves in exactly the form that they are, and those bridges. So I think some of those bridges have to be still made, and still people slowly growing, and then that will also help overall, again, with humanity, because I don't have a problem explaining, the culture in a way that's non-threatening to people. And we want more people that are able to do that, so that people that can give pause for thought on their current belief systems and the healing of themselves, to be able to know that in some places this is not in any way done as any form of derogatory way, or domineering way, or any of the negatives you can see associated with it, that it really just is a very benevolent part of a culture, and it's done benevolently. So that's really the area, because I don't know now, like you were just saying, that people are still showing up in people's minds in a way that's protective of the human, you know what I mean, that they can only handle so much. So I just want your perspective on, as a whole, across the board, have channelers been able to receive true images of beings better than they have before? Well, how is humanity progressing in this?
Better and worse at the same time. There's been more of a divide in this age of discernment, where you're getting more crystal clear views of how things happen out there, but then you're getting more even stronger distorted ones. The brighter the picture, the darker the negative. So there has never been so much as of a divide as there is now. With you have the truer depictions, then you have the greater distortions. So this is why, even though they are quite separate, you cannot tell the difference sometimes between the distortion and the reality. So this is why we're so glad it's so aptly named the Age of Discernment, because this is actually something that needs to be said. Also, people that just blindly worship, please do not. And also people that blindly invite beings in because, they sought them out because their teachings are cool. That's not a good idea. Yes, open communications, yes, because you want Star Trek world, absolutely, but that mentality is being abused right now, because they see it as an open invite, or ringing the dinner bell, so to speak. Like with the triangle, they see that as a bell going off. So yes, it is good to get perspectives from other beings, whether they're lying or not. Yes, of course, or their cultural differences, how they see the universe. Absolutely, you want unified or unity inclusivity, not forced inclusivity. What some of these other beings then see as an opportunity for advancement, so then that they could get a what did you call the person that was the flunky? Yes, they could get another flunky under their belt, or another notch in their bedpost, so to speak. The witch tends to fall into that category, but Yes, do these demigods actively seek people out all the time to try to get them into their little cults? Absolutely. It happens every single day. They'll come to go, oh, we like you. Really, what's that all about? That's what's this curiosity? Yeah, it happens a lot. And some people even build lifestyles around it, which again, there's good side of that, and there is a bad side of it. People are given a set of rules and instructions, again, or commandments in this case, just like Yahweh did to the Jewish people with the Ten Commandments, an insurmountable list that you would not be able to accomplish everything on there, because what was one of the upper rules? Have no other gods before me. What does that say? That screams cult. That screams I'm in charge. You got to watch out for these things, because it doesn't matter how old the demigod cult is. That is one of the oldest. Like when you have extreme rules and restrictions, like with Muhammad's as well. What does this say? Where there's heavy food restrictions, of course he was not very good to his people. He lied to them on a regular basis to manipulate. Uh, but he thought it was for maybe a good reason to keep people away from bad foods and stuff, but it wasn't that altruistic, which he was giving the benefit of the doubt, where we don't in this way. But you're dealing with beings that are trying to get people, because they have a certain, let's just say, elevated sense of living, or certain quality of life that they want to maintain. Like some of your rich folk want to keep abusing and controlling because they have a certain way of life they wish to maintain, of which is collapsing. So I think it's going as for the demigods and the flunkies that are within those rich camps, you see. So it's happened for centuries, and it probably will continue to happen until the lines are very definitely drawn in the sand.
But it has to happen. This is where I was talking to Kara about the contractual agreements. Some of this, it has to be dealt with. And now again, I'm not saying that religious practices are going anywhere. That's not what I'm saying.
Not at all.
I'm saying the unknown, unseen, energetic interference, you know what I mean, that is directly impeding on humanity's growth, that has to be dealt with. So where and that is coming directly from some of these demigods. So it's not an option. It has to be dealt with.
It must be dealt with. There's some little ones that you are completely unaware of that didn't meet the mythological historical record, but most of the ones that you've heard are the ones that are active.
Right.
So even some smaller time ones that might have certain lines on a map that aren't kosher, let's just say. We won't do that particular conversation right now. That's for a different time. But at this moment in time, yes, your flunkies are, let's just say, trying to change the lines on a map to match that of what certain demigods' will are. Let's just put it that way.
Right. And it will not stand, because there is a pathway that will stand as far as certain changes. So I think it's important to say that, because I think sometimes people get into this really fatalistic, it will never change, or it will never, and that's how they want you to think, because that actually aids in them. So you have to be able to see that things are going to change and improve, that certain energetic grips have to go and have been agreed to go. Absolutely. So they're going to go.
Yes. Yeah, they have no choice but to let go. It's very apt that we liked how he called this the transformation from the age of Aquarius over to the age of discernment. We absolutely love this. And this is absolutely what it must be called. Because you are, like I said, there has never been this big of a contrast or divide. You have some more of the truth coming through, then you have a great more deal of the deception coming through. In dualities, it's good and evil. You'll always have this. It is not melting into a singularity, or is what the brat tried to tell him one day, the dualistic sea, where it will go down into, from dualistic good and evil to a singularity. They a lowercase v, you know what I mean, tried to tout this as well because it was the brat pumping this information through him. When he thought he came up with the dualistic seed premise, this brilliant spiritual premise, no insult to him, it was actually the brat dumping that information down through him and then saying, "Oh, that was a brilliant idea you came up with." A fireman and the arsonist, because he would normally go, you set that fire, did you? Now I got to put it out." No, you set that fire. We didn't start the fire, you did. So just basically saying that. So that's why he's considered one of the greatest tricksters of all time, which that label should probably be flushed down the toilet. But I'm just saying. Anyway, you'll find some more information out about him eventually in time that it will be quite displeasing. But I just cannot. At the moment, I know people get frustrated when people won't have a real conversation, but this one is detrimental to your health and well-being. So there's just certain walls of information until spirit opens certain things up cannot be. I hope this actually makes sense. And he gets incredibly frustrated when all of us give him these responses. Because he wants real conversation. The real conversation comes when this opens up. And when this opens up more, he's seeing more of the truth. Like I said, more of the truth is coming out, so therefore you can have more of a real conversation when it comes to a certain block of information. But you color outside of the lines a little more. And you're getting stuff that you have no context for. That you have, it would look weird, and he's spotted some stuff already. But that he has no context for it. That he doesn't know what it is because he's still basing it on what he's been shown, and eventually you go from here to here to here to here. This is where we're at with this. Even if I said certain things, even if Kara or Elena here said certain things, it wouldn't make sense. It's just like you have your base education on Earth, even though it was a controlling, indoctrinative education. What do people base their lives off of? What they've learned in school. What do people base the information off of? Also, say in your New Age movement or your metaphysical or disclosure movement, based on what they have brought through in the box, they brought it through in. There's more information there, just like your sister said when she came through that time. You only know one little fragment. Mm-hmm. You know more now, a lot more since the time she said that. But it's still not enough for me to mention certain things outside of the colored lines, if this makes sense.
Well, I'm fine with that. I know Chris isn't fine with that, but I'm fine with that.
Oh, he's furious with it because of the fact he thinks it's a form of arrogance on the galactic community's part.
No, I have a different perspective, obviously, than Chris does on things like that. So it's like, for me, I will get all these feelings and different things. I have no context for it. I actually prefer not to have a conversation about it until I have some sort of context as to where it's coming from.
Yes. He thinks he would understand it and decode it instantly, and that's not necessarily the case. He's still in this particular form. Also, we were going to mention another area where they misused the nudity thing was when the witch started the Vril Society, and also the Maria Orsic case, where they would be naked to channel, which being naked to channel is actually the prime ideal to channel in, because the energy is flowing greatly, and they figured that out to communicate with the Nordics and reptilians of Aldebaran, but which were the princes of the universe and or the never wases. Well, love the name, by the way. That should be a stuffed animal like those fugglers that are out there.
Right.
Okay, Susan, you're hearing this. Go ahead and create that if you wish. That would be most humorous. Let's just say it would be funnier now. So I'm starting to sound like a Valkyrie now, talking like this humorous stuff. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's the energy that was left behind from her. But anyway, anyhow, but important in this, that's where the nudity was misused, and also the witch did that on Atlantis to talk with the Orions of the past via the crystal skulls and other things. Even though the crystal skull myth was slightly made up, they had skulls they would use as edifices back and forth to get the information from the Orion Wars. bringing in some of the transhumanistic thing and also some of the other information, making their own homegrown versions of this crap. But that's where some of it's gotten to. That was a bastardization, or Orion bastardization of the nude aspect. I wanted to bring that up. Atlantis was some of that as well. This is also why the church went completely the opposite direction and wanted to completely cap the whole thing, another form of Yahweh or Enlil oppression there, or also like they said, the devil brought back all the human carnal tendencies and things of this nature. In this case, fireman and the arsonist, where he took them away and then said, someone else took them away, I'm bringing them back. So I just wanted to point the finger where it needed to be, the middle one. Let's put it down. Just so we know who some of the corruption came from. Not all of it. There's dozens of demigods, but you get the picture. So I believe we are at the end here.
Yes. Yes, no questions, unless you have anything last you want to say for the show.
No, this would be it currently, but just know more context will come. But I must say, you won't like it, because it will seem like it clashes with what you know. It does not. It's an expansion of information. Just know this. It may seem, in appearances only, like certain things clash. You are only viewing one area. Just like on Lonulus, he thought the whole planet was desert-like because of the one little area. But according to Derenberger's words, it's jungle. It's mostly jungle. He just was in a dry area, like you have a desert area here on Earth, like with in our dimension, it's the same thing, where there's desert areas and there's jungle areas and there's watery and beach areas. Same thing. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Same difference. So, because we're right here within your dimensional grouping. I will now detach because it is actually starting to get a little wonky. So, I thank you. Ugh. All right. Yeah. So she sped through that because Kara took up most of the time there, but that's fine. But yeah, interesting points were made about this topic today, especially about the age of discernment. I fully endorse usage of that phrase. This is the age of discernment, not the age of Aquarius or the New Age or anything like that. The age of discernment is actually very prevalent right now, especially when it comes to certain topics like the naked one, or like the religious one, or like the spiritual community, or the disclosure. We call it revealer. So yeah, it's all over the place. So it's not just confined to one topic. So if people want us to dissect maybe a few of the other areas, let us know, and we'll put it in the appropriate camps. We'll try to put it as a show title in another appropriate camp, either GIC or conspiracy sector or what have you, but or any of them. So or Sasquatch even. So at this point, Joanna, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Nope. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Okay, so at this point in time, I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Also, one thing on the age of discernment I want to point out is that some people think, accessing this information is ruining their life. No, it's the opposers, the other end of the spectrum, that are trying to cap people, that are going above the dumbing. The going above all of that and rising above that, and then they get targeted. Everybody gets targeted, but if you go above a certain line, then of course tripwire. You know what I'm saying? So that's another discernment thing right there, that there is a difference. The information's not ruining your life. It's the fact of the targeting that came with it. That didn't come with the information. That came because you learned it. Like us getting hit with the microwave weapons and the like. Why I had to wear the hood during channelings, things of that nature. So I will end this here. It is 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 15th, 2026. Thank you. I also want to bring up something that Facebook is doing. Talk about discernment. I tried doing the Facebook ads. The promote the page on my services. They said they don't allow the promotion of psychic services given fraud level. And you can get that to a degree, but discern that there are real and fakes, just like Houdini was saying in the To the Victor Go the Spoils. He realized when he went into not just spirit, but even as a ghost, well, mostly in the spirit, that there's two things. There were the frauds in the spiritualist movement, and then there were the real ones. So, yeah, you must differentiate. In England, you're doing this too. A friend of ours can't even do reads of his own there because you don't allow it. Because you can't discern. So I'm going to leave this here. So it is 12:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 15th, 2026. Thank you. Okay, see the picture that's blurred in the background? Hopefully, Facebook and YouTube, you're not going to have a cow over that. That's the picture that is being debated over right here. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew this. This was it. This was the sigil that says Valhalla Soul Trap no more. It says Kara the Valkyrie, Valhalla Soul Trap no more. So, and the GIC logo is right there. And the eye above. So, I will leave this here. It is 12:52 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 15th, 2026. Thank you.